Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God in three distinct persons. We see this marked out clearly from the beginning. In Genesis 1, verse 1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And the Hebrew word used for God here is Elohim. Now, El is the Hebrew word for God. Elohim makes it plural, but it is grammatically used to represent a singular. So, the Hebrew here allows for the Trinity within the language. Consider Jesus' own words. In John chapter 10, verse 30, he says, "I and the Father are one." In John 14, verse 10, he starts out by saying, "Don't you believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me?" And Jesus also points out the Holy Spirit's role in the Trinity just a few verses later, in verse 16. "And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever," as Jesus is explaining that after his resurrection, he will leave, but he will send down the Holy Spirit. Now, the word "another" gives us a glimpse of what Jesus is talking about. There are two ways you could use the word "another" in Greek. You could use the word heteros or the word allos. Now, the word heteros means another of a different kind, and allos means another of the same kind. So imagine I had a pen and it ran out of ink. I could ask you for another. And if I asked you for another using heteros, it could be any sort of writing implement. You could give me a marker or a crayon or a pencil. But if I said allos, another of the same kind, you would know that I needed another pen. So Jesus is describing here that he's not sending just any sort of helper, not like an angel or something else, something different. He's sending allos. He's sending allos advocate, another advocate of the same kind, another member of the Holy Trinity. The Holy Spirit is of the same kind, also being God, but a different person in the Trinity. This is hard for us to understand as we are made in the image of God. And being in the image, or as a likeness, we are limited, similar to how a photograph takes something three-dimensional and it becomes a representation of it in 2 dimensions. While we in our physical bodies are limited to 3-dimensional thinking, we can attempt to grasp the reality beyond ours. How is this possible? To paraphrase C.S. Lewis, who described it this way, in 1-dimensional space you have a line, but in 2-dimensional space you can have a square, which is made up of 4 lines. If you have 2 squares in 2-dimensional space, you have 2 separate objects. But when we go beyond that dimension or reality, you get to 3 dimensions, in which case you would have a cube, which is made up of 6 different squares, but it's still one solid object. And if we apply this reality beyond our own 3 dimensions, then the reality we experience can possibly lead us to understanding 3 distinct persons that make up one God, mathematically and logically. So there is one what and 3 whos, one God and 3 persons. While this concept may still be hard to imagine and fathom, I hope this helped you understand a little more about the Trinity. God bless you.